Are marigolds really the superhero pest fighting plant, or is that a beautiful myth? Today, I'm going to cover information about marigolds, including their plant characteristics, growth rate, how to grow them, how to propagate, what their impact is in terms of pest control in your garden, and can you really eat marigolds or not? Let's start with the basics. Marigolds are known as tagetes, and there are many, many cultivars now available for you to select from. Their origins are southwestern United States, down into Mexico, Central America, and South America. Marigolds have become one of the most reliable, hardy annual plants that you can add throughout gardens in North America and are planted in USDA plant hardiness zones from 2 through 11. In the warmer zones like Florida and the southern United States, they can be planted early as spring and will thrive through summer and into the fall. What I love about marigolds is their versatility. They do well in your garden in large masses of a single color. They can be mixed with other plants in your garden bed. They thrive in container gardens and they can be used as cut flowers. So you can consider adding them to your cutting garden. For marigolds to thrive, their growing conditions include full sun exposure for best flowering and plant growth. Their water requirements include moderate watering but consistent water. As far as soil requirements go, they can tolerate a variety of soils. However, if you have very dense clay soil, you need to add some soil improvement to that clay because marigolds don't like wet feet. And if the soil stays damp, they will be susceptible to root rot. When you go to plant your marigolds, consider the spacing requirements by the mature plant size. The smaller plants and dwarf varieties can be spaced between 6 inches and 12 inches apart. Larger varieties can be spaced up to 3 feet apart. That seems like, oh, I'm going to have sticks of plants sticking up, but they will fill in and bush out, and you'll have a very nice looking border mass planting or plant in your container garden. Marigolds are very easy to propagate. And you can start them indoors using seeds, or you can scatter seeds on the soil when the soil is warm. So that would be depending on your hardiness zone, either early spring or late spring. They will develop seedlings and thrive. You can also buy your plants in small containers or even larger pots from your local nursery or big box store and put your plants directly into the ground. In terms of garden maintenance, they're pretty much disease and pest free. And to get that continuous bloom that you want from when you plant them until frost, you need to do occasional deadheading, and that will help them bush out and create more flowers. Many gardeners like to plant marigolds in their vegetable garden as pest prevention strategy. My experience with that is I planted some marigolds between my green peppers and tomato plants. They did attract a lot of aphids. However, the plants also had a lot of aphids. So they're not the answer to all problems in terms of pest control. And that leads us to talk about one of the big pests in soils, and that's nematodes. Nematodes are microscopic organisms, 1,000 or more variety of nematodes in the soil. Some nematodes are susceptible to a chemical that the actively growing roots of marigolds produce. Other nematodes are not susceptible to that, and there's some kinds of nematodes that actually will thrive on the production of that chemical. The chemical that the marigolds produce that can be a deterrent to some nematodes is called alpha terphenol, and if I mispronounce it, my apologies. It's only found when the roots are actively growing. Now, in order to try to have marigolds be a true prevention for some nematodes, you would need to plant a whole ground cover crop of marigolds. Here's where things get complex. If you were going to try to do goals as a cover crop and go that route for nematode control, first, you need to be sure that you have a soil test and that you're testing for nematode concentration. Secondly, you need to realize that not all marigolds produce the same amount or even a large amount of the chemical. So, if you had a garden plot that you were going to start with, you would need to space your marigolds 7 inches apart in that whole plot. You're going to have to start a lot of seedling before you put them out. And you're not sure when you buy a package of marigold seeds what the content of the chemical is going to be when the roots are actively growing. That would require testing the plants to know if they're going to produce enough chemical to control nematodes. It can get pretty expensive and complex fast. There's actually a research-based method for reducing nematode in your soil, and it's called soil solarization. You're putting a piece of clear plastic over soil area and allowing that area to be heated by the sun until the soil is what they call solarized. You've raised the soil temperatures enough to kill significant amount of nematode population. That is a lot of work to do that, but your results in terms of control will be more reliable than trying to interplant marigolds among your crop. Now, you may wonder, are marigolds edible? Any parts like the leaves or the stems or the flowers? And the answer is that they get confused with another plant called calendulas. In the nursery trade, calendulas are often called pot marigolds. They sort of look similar. They're large flowers, similar colors. So calendulas are edible and used in a variety of salads or stir fries or things like that. If you're interested in growing edible flowers, I would suggest you stick with calendula. It has a long culinary history. And there are also other flowering plants that are documented to be edible, and those would be nasturtiums, pansies, and violet. Marigolds are very bitter. They smell strong. There is information from certain Latin American cultures that do use marigolds in cooking. From a horticulture perspective and a food safety perspective, I would not recommend it because very mixed information and results in the literature. There's a lot of disagreement on this topic about whether they're edible or not. From the University of Florida, they recommend not confusing marigolds with calendula in terms of an edible plant. They don't recommend using it as a culinary plant. So there you have it about marigolds. They are beautiful, easy to grow, wonderful flowering plant. They attract beneficial pollinators and butterflies to your yard, and they deserve a place in your garden. Great plants to start with for beginning gardeners, as well as all of us senior gardeners or experienced gardeners. They add wonderful color to our garden beds. But are they a miracle pest solution? No. My advice is plant marigolds because you love them. They're bright, they attract butterflies and pollinators, they add a pop of color, they're easy to grow. You are contributing to the biodiversity of your yard, and they are great cut flower. I hope that you found this information helpful and that you'll consider adding marigolds to your garden, and that you'll also consider subscribing to Gardenier if you've not yet subscribed.